However, in 2014, May 24th, I lost my youngest son, Mark, 24 years old, complications from substance use disorder and type 1 diabetes.
It's like you and I talked about earlier. You gave her a purpose. And for us, addicts and alcoholics, like having a purpose, and I'll speak for me personally, is everything. Like when we have a purpose in life, that's motivation, because a purpose for me didn't exist.
One of the homes has what they call a God bed, which means if somebody comes off the street with no money and no insurance, they could have a place to stay. And so we wanted to help the managers out, and we financially supported the God bed so they wouldn't have to. And then we realized that the house managers were spending a lot of their own money trying to help men and women who were coming off the street get started. So we started what we call Clean Start Bags.
It's the first time I've been wowed through a whole podcast. Just listening to you, I feel like I could listen to you for hours. God is working through you, for you, and through you to make an impact, and you're doing so, and it's really, really, really amazing to watch.
Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Destiny. Hello, Destiny.
Hello, Thomas.
And we have a lovely lady by the name of Erica. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Tom.
How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. Right, ladies?
You bet.
Yes, sir.
How we doing?
Fabulous. How are you?
See how many times I can ask y'all how you're doing.
And I'm going to see how many times I can come up with a different response.
Okay. I like that. So I'll do a brief introduction, and brief because we don't know each other. But Destiny approached me a few weeks back and said, hey, I have Erica that I think would be good on the podcast, and this is what we could talk about, so on and so forth. And anytime Ben or Destiny or anybody here really approaches me about having a guest on, there's no reason not to. So I said, sure, set it up. And here we are.
Like, what the heck? Let's get Erica.
Yeah. Might as well. So, but I will say this, from the limited insight as to what I know about you and kind of what you've been doing for the recovery community, it's pretty remarkable. I am excited to kind of get into the weeds of it a little bit and see all the things that you're doing for the recovery community. But in and of itself, I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Destiny, go ahead and give us a better introduction.
Oh, gosh. What can I say about this woman, Erica? I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Tom. What they do for this recovery community is, absolutely remarkable. She is, and their foundation, and what they do is one of the reasons that I, decided to stay in school and pursue my nursing career. I met her through a mutual friend through word of mouth. And, I applied to their scholarship foundation that they offer for people in recovery wanting to go back to school, because for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, financially, it just wasn't in the cards for me. Student loans scare the heck out of me. I've heard horror stories from people that I know that are paying, still paying off student loans, and they went to school 10 years ago and they're nowhere close to paying it off. So all in all, I was just not into the idea of student loans. And then Erica and her husband and their foundation come into my life, and that is a big reason that I'm now pursuing my career, because I have the love and support of them, and it's really, a family in itself. I mean, if I were to need anything, which I did actually, and Erica immediately, call me on the phone. Let's talk about this. And it's incredible. You help change the lives of so many, and your husband. And gosh, I could spend the rest of my life trying to say thank you in so many different ways. And I don't think that it's not even that I don't think, I know it wouldn't be enough. So thank you for everything that you do. And I'm excited to get the word out because I feel like everybody needs to know that there is support for people wanting to go back to school, change their lives, that there is this foundation and you guys exist.
Well, thank you for that. I can't begin to tell you how much of a blessing you all are to us. We feel like it's such a gift that we're able to do this, and it fills us as much as I'm hoping it fills you all up too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, as much as you want to share, as little as you want to share, and then we'll start talking about the foundation in and of itself.
Okay. I am a mom. I'm a worker. I'm a friend. I'm a volunteer. I do lots of things to give back. I believe we were put on this earth to serve. However, in 2014, May 24th, I lost my youngest son, Mark, 24 years old, complications from substance use disorder and type 1 diabetes. And, needless to say, my world fell apart. I have never experienced such pain and such hurt, and I couldn't imagine how I was going to get out of bed every morning. I mean, it was, you go to bed and when I was able to get an hour or two of sleep, that was great. But when I woke up, that's when the nightmare began, because that's when the reality continued to show up. And it was awful. But at some point, a few weeks or months into trying to figure all this out and try to make some sense of what happened, and a guy put it in my head to say yes to everything. And I said, okay, I'll try that, because I was desperate to find anything that was going to make me feel better. And people suggested crazy things, like somebody suggested, and maybe I'll do it here, it just didn't work for me, was cranial sacral therapy. People suggested yoga. People suggested going to the Compassionate Friends, which is a worldwide organization for parents who've lost children. And I just said yes to everything and did and tried everything. And the recovery community that my son was a part of, he was the first person that they had lost in that community, and they too were devastated. And so they wanted to dedicate a sober living home in his name, which they did. It's currently the Mark Garwood Phoenix House. And so my husband and I went down there to meet the people in the house, and I gave a talk. There was probably about 7 or 8 houses at the time, and so they had a big meeting, and I went and told my story. When I was finished and driving home, I received a phone call from this woman, Jessie, and she was one of the house managers. And what she said to me was, Erica, I really resonated with what you had to say. She said, but my mom's still using. Can we be family? And it was like, of course we can, sweetheart, and developed a relationship with her. And as I got to know her, she was telling me that she was so grateful to be sober. She had maybe 5 or 6 months sober. She said, but I'm a hostess in a diner. Is this my future? Is this all there is for me? And so I said, sweetheart, if you could be anything in the whole world, what would you like to do? She said, well, I would love to be a nurse. She said, but I have brushes with the law. I started school, dropped out of school, started school, dropped out of school, took out loans, forfeited on my loans, and I can't see a way out. My husband and I went home that night, and it was like a light bulb went off in our heads. What would happen if we offered her a scholarship? And we decided to say yes to that. So we offered Jesse our first scholarship. That was in 2015. And Jessie had to take remedial courses before she could even take her college courses. And I'm just so thrilled to say 2 years ago she graduated and is currently working as a nurse in one of our local hospitals. Mm. But that was the start of seeing what a difference education could make.
Wow. Did you know that?
I didn't know about Jessie being the first one. I knew about Mark, and that's kind of what inspired, as far as reaching out and helping the people in the recovery community. But that right there just is so inspiring and heartfelt. I mean, it really is that you considered, helping and making Jessie's life 1,000 times better and giving her, the opportunity for a career in school and education. The biggest thing I think is, it's like you and I talked about earlier, you gave her a purpose. And for us, addicts and alcoholics, like having a purpose, and I'll speak for me personally, is everything. Like when we have a purpose in life, that's motivation, because a purpose for me didn't exist when I was drinking and using. And you gave Jessie a purpose, and that's absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you for that. When we were starting to form a foundation and talking about Jessie and her scholarship, I remembered the last text message I received from my son said, "My God has given me forgiveness and strength, and that's what I want to portray unto others. God bless you." And we knew that we needed to carry out his legacy of forgiveness and strength and support to the recovery community.
Mm.
Can I ask a couple questions about your son?
Oh, please.
How old was he when he passed?
24.
24. And you said complications of substance abuse and diabetes?
Correct.
Was he sober when he passed or no?
On April 20th of the year before he passed, he sent me a picture of his key tag. He was going to NA. He had been 5 years prior to that. He was assaulted at an LA Fitness pickup basketball game. Prior to that, in high school and college, he experimented and did everything like all the kids did, and he'd come home and tell me all about it and what he was doing. But he got good grades, and he seemed to be doing okay. But after he was assaulted at the basketball game, they broke his jaw, his eye socket. His mouth was wired shut for 6 weeks, and of course the surgeon prescribed oxycodone, and then that was it. And it was a 5-year battle for him trying to get his life back on track. He was in and out of treatment centers and sober living. And he was trying again. He seemed to have a stretch of time, and then he relapsed. And then on April 20th, 2014, he sent me a picture of his keychain. He was trying to get back on track. But just a month later, the pump that he had for his type 1 diabetes broke. And so we had ordered a new one, and he was supposed to be giving himself his own insulin shots, which he was not. And so I just believe on May 24th, he was really sick from his diabetes. He thought he was dope sick. He did take a couple of things to try and balance it out.
Didn't work.
But didn't work.
Yeah. Do you have any other kids? You do?
Yes, I have 2 daughters, and I have another son who unfortunately lives in heaven with Mark.
Oh. And your daughters are local?
I have a daughter in Jacksonville, and her daughter, my 22-year-old granddaughter, is graduating from college in 2 weeks. And then my other daughter lives in Orlando, and she has 3 children, and identical twin boys, which twins do not run in our family, but I think that's another way of God working. If we lost 2 boys and we have 2 boys
yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and a daughter, yeah.
My wife's a twin. So I was always waiting for we're having twins when we started having kids. And my dad's mom, my grandmother, she was a twin. So twins were like
everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm like, no twins. No. And then didn't have twins, but end up having three.
Yeah. Well,
3 kids.
It was a big surprise for her and for us.
Yeah. And are they doing well? Sounds like?
Yes. Thank goodness everybody's doing well. Thank you.
So circling back to the foundation, you and your husband, you guys were laying there and had this God moment, it sounds like. What were the steps that you guys took? I mean, was it something like, and you don't have to answer this specifically, but I mean, I don't know anything about nonprofits or foundations or anything of the sorts. But you had this calling to scholarship Jesse into school.
Correct.
I mean, do you just, hey, we're going to pay for it. We're going to start this foundation and, we're just going to start taking donations? Or did you have to start the foundation and the donation process? Or what was that like? I'm only asking because I'm inquisitive. I don't know.
Well, it's a good question because really, when my husband and I talk about it, it's like we don't even know how we got here, except by saying yes to whatever was presented to us, putting one foot in front of the other, getting out of bed and trying to figure it out. We started our foundation before we offered Jesse the scholarship, just because we thought we should have a nonprofit foundation. I don't think there was any big plans at that point, except to support the Phoenix Sober Living Home. As a matter of fact, we started with, before we even started with Jesse, we knew we wanted to do something in the recovery community, and being involved with the recovery community that Mark was involved with, one of the homes has what they call a God bed, which means if somebody comes off the street with no money and no insurance, they could have a place to stay. And so we wanted to help the managers out, and we financially supported the God bed so they wouldn't have to. And then we realized that the house managers were spending a lot of their own money trying to help men and women who were coming off the street get started. So we started what we call Clean Start bags. And we put together a drawstring bag, and it has shampoo and deodorant and toothbrush and toothpaste and combs and a big book and a gift card to Walmart if they needed to buy things, so that the house managers can give them to people who were in need, and doing all this in Mark's name. So that's really how we started. And then after seeing the difference it was making in Jesse's life and women in that recovery community, because it started out, we gave Jesse the first one, and then the next year we gave out 4 scholarships from the women saying, I want to go back to school. I want to go back to school. And we were thinking, well, how can we do this? And that's when we started thinking about raising money and continuing that. I believe that God has used our pain for a passion and a purpose, and that's what we're trying to do.
Up to this point, how many scholarships do you think you've done?
We've given out 67 scholarships.
Wow.
Over $450,000. And we've given out scholarships. It doesn't matter if you want to go to trade school, you want to go to beauty school, you want to go to FAU, wherever you want to go to school, we're fine with that. We do have some requirements. First of all, if anybody is interested in the scholarship program, please, I would suggest you like us on Facebook, because that's when we will promote and announce when the scholarship process is open. That process will open July 15th for 2 months. For 2 months, when we're accepting applications to go back to school January 2025. Part of that process is filling out an application. It's writing an essay. It's signing a drug waiver. We do random drug testing. We ask the people who are filling out the application to sign a social media policy. We want to make sure that there's nothing on social media that a recipient could be posting that could be taken the wrong way or could in some way be negative on the foundation and our son's legacy. And so that's what we do.
And you said on Facebook, what's the actual name of the foundation?
Mark Garwood Foundation.
Garwood?
Correct. Mark, M-A-R-K. And we're in the process of rebuilding our website. So hopefully in a week or two, y'all can go to our website.
67 scholarships over the course of, what would that be, 9 years?
Over the course of, almost 9 years.
So I know all 67 are going to be a success story, obviously. But what are some of the ones, and we already talked about Jesse, do any of them stick out in your head that are like, I'm reluctant, they're all great. They're all, you're transforming people's lives. But do you have any of those 67 that really are like, wow, we made a huge impact on that person? Or are they kind of all the same type of impact?
I think we're making an impact on all of them. We do have, two of our recipients. One has graduated as a doctor of nursing. One is currently in medical school. One is a master electrician. He was 48 years old, working as an electrician, but wanted to get his degree and wanted to go back to school. And we said, great. We have a grandma who's got grandkids who finally I'm not going to reveal her age, said, I'm done running and gunning. I am, working in the treatment field, but I really want to get my license and get certified. So, they all are, it's in, different levels of where they are, but they all are gifts and blessings to us. And although we have awarded 67 scholarships, there have been one or two that just haven't worked out. We understand that relapse is a part of recovery. And when what we do also, after we get the scholarship applications in, we interview. There's a 45-minute interview that they come in. And we tell them, if you relapse, let us know. We're not going to take your scholarship away. We understand it's a part of it, but let us help you. And, we have had one or two where they have relapsed, and we put together a protocol for them. Whether it's going back to sober living, it's drug testing on a regular basis. It's, it varies depending upon the student's need, but we'll hold that scholarship till they get back on track and please go back to, continue back to school. And we have had one or two that just could not do it. But for our program, 90% of the people while in our program remain sober.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to what Destiny, you were saying, the purpose piece. A lot of times when people are getting clean and sober, they lack that. They lack the connection, the sense of purpose, the real drive to do anything, because you're so used to failure. You're used to, being defeated. We're oftentimes very self-defeating, self-deprecating, like, I can't do this, I can't do that. And so if somebody's just willing to try it out, and I think going back to Jesse's story, she had all the general education classes to take too. And Destiny, I think this pertains to you as well. Like, just taking the incremental step of going to the admissions office and sitting with an admissions advisor, for somebody that is not used to that has never done that before, just going onto a college campus and sitting in front of an admissions advisor is going to give you more of a drive to stay sober, because that's part of the process. Going to the admissions office is an accomplishment for a lot of people.
Correct. It can be so overwhelming. Destiny and I were talking about it earlier, and what we stress to our recipients and when we're interviewing them too is balance, because most of our recipients, they're working, they're going to meetings, now they want to go back to school, they have families, they got a life. And we tell them, take one class a semester until you get used to it for a while. Do what is comfortable for you. We want to give them every opportunity to be successful. And one of the blessings, which we didn't start, but our initial set of recipients started, is on Facebook. They have a closed foundation help page where they all can talk to each other, where I'm taking these classes, can you recommend a teacher? Or I need this book, or I'm selling this book, or my place has a job opening, or, that sort of thing, so that they can feel connected and feel part of, which is what we feel like with our recipients. They're part of our foundation family. And one of the things that we hadn't thought about, but we have certainly been blessed, is we have so many of our recipients now have children. And so it's like a generational change that these kids will never see their parents, using, and they'll see their parents fulfilling the dream and the goals and that they wanted to accomplish. And that's a miracle in itself. What a blessing to witness that.
How does that, when looking back on, your son Mark and stuff, how does that, you said yes to everything. Has this foundation been one of, would you say, the biggest assets to you in terms of going through that loss with Mark, like the grief and stuff like that? Like when you started and seeing the transformations in these people, is that when it started to become easier for you to kind of handle the loss of Mark?
It certainly helps. To see these men and women thrive gives us a sense of purpose and a reason to continue to get out of bed and to do that. That certainly helps. But I can tell you, on any given day, the waves of grief can knock me over, and I can be back in bed under the covers. But having the foundation and the connections. I really care about all these men and women. And if they need something over and above school, a reference, or can you help me with this? Or I love that. How can we be of service to you? How can we make you be as successful as you want to be, not only in school but in your whole life, in your personal life?
Destiny, I'm going to bring you in on this. Don't worry.
Okay.
Have you heard of Love in the Trenches?
No.
Okay, I'm going to connect you with them. Love in the Trenches it's a nonprofit foundation. The lady that started it, I had her on the show. My timetables are terrible. I want to say 6 months, but it could have been 2 months ago. It could have been
2
a
years
year ago. I don't know. It's a great foundation, and it's a foundation that it's a lot of parents and loved ones that have lost children, and they hold weekly like Zoom meetings and sessions and stuff like that. And a lot of it's with, grief and loss. And I'm not saying that you need to attend that. I'm just, I believe in networking and connecting people. And I feel like your foundation and her foundation are very, very similar. You're doing something that she's not doing, and she's doing something that you're not doing.
Right.
So there could be some synergy there.
Okay.
So I'd like to link you guys up, and I'll do that after we're done here.
I'd like that.
Destiny, question for you.
Thomas, answer.
You had a frontline experience with this. Mm-hmm. Take us through, how did you find out about the foundation, the application process,
the interview,
those sorts of things, and we'll go from there.
You bring that up, and the first word that comes to mind is anxiety, because I think Tom mentioned earlier, self-deprecating. I can't. I mean, this is, someone who was a high school dropout, and a couple years getting clean, got their GED, and I was like, okay, I'm going back to college. This is great. And then fear said it again, right? Like, I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not going to be smart enough. And, I heard it through Brianna, and she works here. Brianna actually works here with us. She's an absolute angel. She does so much for Rock, and we're blessed to have her. She was telling me that, she was she found this scholarship program, and they do applications and they help people get through school. And it interests me. I had already gone through that whole journey of, going to the college and signing up for just some core classes and, was paying for them, didn't want to do student loans, but, didn't really know if I was going to continue just because school is expensive. And then I hear from Brianna, hey, there's a program and they help recovering addicts and alcoholics get through school. So I was like, okay. She told me about the application process. You go to their page that has all the forms that you print out, sign, release for school, release consent to random drug testing. Then we have to go to a certain site to drug test when we turn our applications in. And that's, step one with the essay. And I think the prompt changes every year as far as when I did it, it was, tell us about your recovery, day-to-day life, what recovery does for you. And once you get to the next phase, you have to go in for an in-person interview. And I was so scared. You go in this room and there's, obviously Erica and her husband are there. There's a couple people that are on the board with them. They sit there and they, interview you. I think you guys asked me questions about my recovery, about my life, why I want to go back to school, different things. And that I was so scared. But some of them were in recovery themselves, and they did such a good job of making you feel welcomed. The atmosphere wasn't, it was very welcoming and it felt safe, which I thought was really, really great. I just couldn't get over my anxiety that I had. Phase 3 is you get an email and you get invited to, what was it?
Our sporting clay event. Our biggest fundraiser of the year is a sporting clay event, which is the first Friday in November.
So, and they, that's where a lot of the donations come from, if not all of them, for the college, for the recipients. And, you go there not knowing if you're going to win or not. So that in itself is very nerve-wracking.
Careful about this.
And, they announce the winners. And, Erica actually brought up a great point that, these people donating money get to see where their money is going to. They get to see the real life reactions of these addicts and alcoholics that win this scholarship, that was probably one of the greatest moments in my recovery because I won something. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. Now I get to go and pursue this career that, I never thought that I was going to be able to. So many different emotions, but it's, Erica and her husband and all the past, addicts and alcoholics, all the past recipients that are still there, are great supporters. They believe in us and they tell us that, like, you can do this. Great support system. It was remarkable.
And what are you going to school for?
Nursing.
It's funny.
Well, you know what? The majority of our recipients are going back to school in a profession, in a field where they can give back. Yeah. Nursing and social work and human services, because they want to give back what's been given to them.
Can I ask you, what did you do for a career?
I was a national sales rep. I sold advertising on television stations throughout the country. I represented a company that had, 60, 70 television stations, and I would go to advertising agencies and sell commercial time on television.
That's interesting. How is that? I'm totally just because my brain operates this way, when I hear something that I want to know more about, I'm going to ask questions, even though it's totally unrelated to what we're talking about. Do you think that that's television commercials and stuff? Is that still a wise marketing investment for a company? And I'm not saying that we would even consider doing that. Just curious your thoughts, because you obviously did it.
Well, yes, but I did it 40 years ago.
Back then, it made a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, when people are looking, let's say to buy a car, they may open up the newspaper or do some research to buy a car. But if they want the idea of whether they should buy a car, see what it looks like, well, a television commercial makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And
now it's because, you know what I do, Destiny, when a commercial comes on TV, if I'm even watching anything that has commercials, because I have YouTube Premium, so I don't get hit with ads there. Apple TV doesn't have commercials. Netflix doesn't have commercials. So all these streaming services. But if I am watching something that has commercials, do you know what I do?
What do you do?
No, I'm asking you that.
Oh, you go to the bathroom or you go get something to drink?
Nope. I pick up my cell phone.
Yeah.
As soon as commercials come on, I'm on my phone looking at everything but the television.
I can relate to that because what streaming platform? Just Amazon. So they're doing Amazon Prime. They're doing commercials now.
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of a great show that I'm watching or a movie, and this minute commercial comes on out of nowhere. I'm like, the audacity. How dare you? I think with the streaming platforms that we have now, commercials just aren't a thing anymore. I can't tell you the last time that I've watched live TV.
Right.
Well, I'm sure glad I was in the business 40 years ago and not now.
Yeah, now you'd be selling Instagram ads.
Right.
Erica, the foundation in and of itself, is it restricted to Florida residents or?
Well, currently it is people who live in the South Florida area for us to be able to random drug test.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of our recipients, they're going to school all different places throughout the country because they can do it now online.
That's good.
So they can go to school wherever they want, but we just haven't gotten big enough to expand yet to be able to do the random drug testing other places. But hopefully that's on the horizon.
Yeah, I wonder what the barriers would be to that.
It would be contacting labs and establishing those kind of
relationships.
But eventually we'll get there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why after we're done recording.
Okay.
Well, I think it's an absolute blessing what you're doing, for the recovery community as a whole. Is there any other plans for it outside of what you're already doing in terms of like not necessarily expanding throughout the country, but any other plans as far as the foundations goes and other ways to give back? Or are you just kind of sticking with what what you're good at and staying there?
Well, right now we're staying where we are, but we're exploring relationships with the recovery community and different things we can do. Something which we hadn't come across this before, but now we do. We have one of our recipients who transferred her previous credits from another school when she was using and drugging or whatever to, I think it was Indian River State College. When the transfer went through, because her grade point average was, as my husband says, 0.0 shit. It was, now she's been going to school at IRSC, but now she transferred all that stuff and she can't get her grade point average to come up. Because when you start with something so low, even if you get A's and B's, it takes forever to raise your GPA. And so then they put you on academic probation and there's all this stuff. So we're exploring ways that we can talk to the universities to try and get past records when they were using expunged. Because that's complete. They were using, and that's not a fair representation of who they are and what they're doing today. So there's things within our foundation that we're working to explore and expand.
Have you made any headway on it? Or?
We're just starting that process.
Yeah. I wonder, I might have somebody that might be able to assist in that. Maybe. But
well, we have somebody, our executive director, we'll be talking to the schools, but it's finding the correct way to approach them that they will be open to consider that. So, yeah, we're working on that.
You know, it may end up being kind of the same process that somebody would get an application through with you guys. You know, if I'm a dean of a college, I'd be open. I'd be 100% open to that, but maybe doing kind of the same thing, an essay, an interview process with the school.
Yeah,
you know,
correct. And that, that's our plan, is to start meeting with deans and advisors. Like I said, we currently just have one person with that. So we're working with her school to try and, we haven't begun it yet. We're in the process of beginning that meeting with the correct people. So like I said, within our foundation, there are a lot of avenues that we can explore and research so that we can enhance what our recipients are doing and giving them the best possible chance to succeed.
Well, I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. It's phenomenal for the recovery community. You have a website, is at markgarwoodfoundation.com?
.org.
Okay, and on Facebook, Mark Garwood Foundation. Anywhere else?
Instagram too.
Mark Garwood Foundation?
Yes.
And if people wanted to make a donation, how would they go about that?
Well, they can contact me. They can go to our website, which, like I said, in the next week or two, you can just go and donate. I'm not sure if they can do that on Facebook or not. I don't know.
I don't think. I don't know. I know you can make financial transactions.
Probably our website would be the best way to do that.
Yeah, or I mean, they could always contact us, and we can put them in contact with you.
That would be great.
Yeah. And as far as donations amounts, I mean, anything, right?
Anything is appreciative.
Yeah.
Anything.
Is that, I'm assuming, or you're a nonprofit?
We're a nonprofit.
So it's a tax deduction, and
correct.
That's super cool. You don't see many of this. I don't know of any foundation that does what you're doing.
And we didn't either. I think we are the only ones who are doing it, but that's God's plan.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, when we started this, we had no idea that this is where we'd be, and it's just by the grace of God, one foot in front of the other, saying yes to everything, that we're here.
So I'm a Christian, and I've been listening, and even prior to recording, I was listening to you and Destiny speak. In terms of your faith and, your walk with God and everything, this foundation and the impacts that you've made on other people, how has it impacted your faith? And has it impacted your faith in ways that you weren't anticipating, or did you kind of always know that, this is one of the things that I'm put on this earth to do?
I had no idea, to be perfectly honest. After Mark died, I'm a fairly new Christian, maybe 15 years. And after Mark died, I lost it. I could not, I guess my biggest frustration was I understood the choices that Mark made, but I didn't understand why there wasn't a miracle. And, people would tell me, journal out your feelings, it'll feel better. And I am not a writer. But what I did one day is I picked up pen and paper and I wrote a letter to God. And it was the nastiest, vilest, horrible letter, names and cursing and everything. And I did that every day for months because I just had all this inside of me and I couldn't get it out. And I wrote these horrible letters to God until one day I just couldn't do it anymore. And that may have coincided pretty close to Jesse and the scholarship. And I see, for me, the miracle is Mark gets to go home. He gets to be with God. And it was probably about maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I sat at the beach and I prayed to God and I asked for his forgiveness and I burned those letters.
Wow. How'd that feel?
It felt a big sense of relief because I know that God's there. I know that he's, working through us and with us. And it gives me a sense of peace.
Have you had any other moms or anybody in your life that has been impacted in ways that you've been able to, share your experience with and kind of help them through their process?
Yes, and it really is a give and take. I was surprised after Mark died how many people that I know have lost a child. From the lady who does my hair to this waitress we would go to every Sunday for breakfast, and then I've also have been very involved in the Compassionate Friends, which I told you is a worldwide organization for parents who've lost children. My husband and I restarted it up in our Stewart area. And it's kind of sad that every month we have new people coming, but we give back that way too, by being able to share what it was like in the beginning and that there is hope. The pain never goes away. It never goes away, but the edges get softer. And I've learned how to manage it better.
I like that. The edges get softer.
That was really beautiful, actually.
Destiny's holding back tears, I can tell.
I've been wowed by this whole podcast. I mean, I knew you and you already inspired me, and you're like what you've done. As I see now, you say that, and I'm tearing up. Tearing up on a podcast, guys. And the impact that you've not only made on my life, but so many others. And now to get to know you more personally, like you said, we don't get to see you all the time. I know you're always a phone call away. But just to get to know more of your personal life, it's the first time I've been wowed through a whole podcast. Just listening to you, I feel like I could listen to you for hours. God is working through you, for you, and through you to make an impact, and you're doing so, and it's really, really, really amazing to watch.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're up in the Stewart area?
Yes.
I love it up there.
Oh, I do too.
Have you been up there your whole life?
No, but we've had our place for, I guess it's 25 years now. And then we moved up permanently. When Mark went to college, we moved up there permanently.
Where are you from originally?
Well, born in Philadelphia, but moved to Miami when I was a baby.
Okay.
Met my husband. We both worked at a television station. Traveled. We moved to Detroit, and Atlanta, and Oklahoma, and with his career and mine. And then we moved back 30 some odd years ago, and Miami Lakes, Weston, Parkland, and now up in Stewart. So we just moved up a little bit every time.
My wife's aunt just bought a place up in Stewart. Oh, I forget. It's nice. It's a nice place, but it's probably like 5 minutes from downtown Stewart.
Oh, downtown Stewart's so charming. And
Yeah.
Wait. Don't move to Stewart. We don't want any more people. We don't need it any more crowded.
There you go.
It's actually
not
awful.
Gorgeous.
It's terrible.
It's awful up there.
Crime and
Exactly. You don't want to be up there.
Housing market is ridiculous. You're not going to be able to afford anything.
That's true.
That is true. Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
It was so nice meeting you. Thank you for asking. And Destiny, it's always a pleasure and a gift to see you.
I know. I'm really seriously trying to hold back tears, but I'm so glad that you got to come out today and talk about this and just let people know, especially in the recovery community, for anyone who's afraid to go back to school, who doesn't think they're good enough or have any support, like you guys are there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So Mark Garwood Foundation on Facebook, markgarwoodfoundation.org, and on Instagram, Mark Garwood Foundation. If you want to make any donations or learn more about the program in and of itself, you can go there, or you can always just contact us, info@ruralrecoverytalk.com, and we'll just make the connection. And that's it. All good?
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.